directly at your seat. So, what if you wanted to reverse the assumptions for your role or what you do at the NPCA? How would you do it? On the left-hand side of the paper, write down all the assumptions you have, left-hand side of a T-chart. On the right-hand side, then reverse all those assumptions as many ways as you can. Maybe consider, who are our customers? Who do we assume it has to be? How do we price different things that we do? How do we distribute what we offer? How do we produce, or what are the logistics or approvals to get these things done? How are we communicating what we do, and do we need to do it that way? Reverse all of those as many times as you can and come up with something entirely new. Now, that was just 4 quick exercises we went through. I'd love to launch a quick poll and ask you here on the phone, which technique would you use first? If you can right now go to your team and try one of these. I'm going to launch a poll and see, of the 4 that we just did, which one would you use first? So let me launch this here. Would you use killer queries, kill a stupid rule, wildcards, or assumption reversal? Type in your answer now for me, and I'm then going to share the results. I'm going to share the results. Oh, my bet here, my team is looking at me here as I'm doing this webinar in the office. My bet was going to be assumption reversal, but we'll see. Just a couple more people are coming in. A couple more folks. Ooh. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to close this and I'm going to share the results. Here we go. Okay, here are the results. Can everybody see those results? 60% of you said kill a stupid rule. 27% assumption reversal. And then we've got a tie between killer queries and wildcards. I'll bet you if I even presented more of the tools, we'd even have a more diverse showing. I'll tell you, it's really great what I see here that you said kill a stupid rule is, well, it's usually a popular tool, I'll have to say, because it's a quick one to do with teams. It's a great way to show that you're serious about change, and you get some quick wins out of it that you can make change right away. Assumption reversal is a fun one if you're really looking to disrupt something. Take your assumptions, reverse them, stretch it in new ways. And the other ones are really just good skill-building tools to start creating change in terms of asking better questions and, well, teaching us to be better problem solvers. Now, let me move on to the last piece here. I promised you some little bigs. We've had some tools. We've talked about why innovation is important and diagnosed ourselves. What do we do? How do we just get started? I've had the fortune when I've taught all over the world here. We've been in about 20 countries already this year, sharing with people and asking them, what do you do to create change? How do you actually get people to participate? And I want to tell you some of my favorites. I put 6 here. Some are small and you might think silly. Some are really impactful that you could do right now. The first one is called empowerment rules. The thing I love about empowerment rules is it's helping people not just say I want to be empowered, but forcing them to do it. Forcing them to do it. I'll tell you what it does. This actually, remember Brian in the bozo wig, the guy who was in charge of risk for this huge financial services firm? He said, you know what, Lisa, everyone comes to me and says, I want to be empowered. I want to be empowered. And he said, I keep telling them they're empowered. Why aren't they empowering themselves? He said, maybe they don't believe I actually want them to do it, or maybe they don't really feel like I'll let them. So you know what I did? I went and I told them this week that they have to make 2 decisions without me and come to me at the end of the week and tell me what they were. And he said, I told people to do this, and they kind of looked at me like with deer in the headlights, like, what do you mean I have to do 2 decisions without you? Like, what kind of decisions? And he said it was interesting. In the first week it was, well, they decided who could come to a meeting, and they didn't have to ask my permission for it. Or another one said, well, I decided not to CC you on an email. I hope that's okay. And he said it was interesting. I have a team of 15, Lisa, and at the end of that week, there were 15 people who made 2 decisions without me. That was 30 less decisions I had to make. And each week it got more and got more and got more. And he said it was amazing the amount of time suddenly I had free and the amount of culture change and empowerment people suddenly felt like they had. So empowerment rules. The second one is called outside in. Outside in is very interesting because if you want to get different ideas, you got to ask different people. So invite people from a different function, a different level, a different role, a different association to join your meetings. Participate in the brainstorm. I'll tell you, Westin Hotels does something very interesting. Within their organization for their hotels, they come up with new promotions every month. They started inviting the housekeepers to their meetings and said, hey, what should we do differently? Another group actually invited in customers that had fired them and said, I never want to stay at your hotel again. That's where they got the best ideas, was having the most unusual suspects and getting an outside perspective. Number 3 here is about doing the unexpected. Doing the unexpected is, a lot of people have come to expect meetings to be held in the same place. They expect emails to be delivered in the same way. One person actually from a bank downtown at Citigroup, they said, you know what, I called my people in to a room and I'd gotten rid of all the chairs. We did the meeting standing up. Now, you've heard that before. Another one said, I actually lined all the tops of the tables with butcher block paper. And I said, we can't use PowerPoint. We have to draw all the ideas that we're trying to convey to everybody. You're only allowed to use pictures, not words. And they said what was interesting about that was it forced people to actually behave in different ways, so they had to actually articulate what they wanted better and be more succinct. Number 4 here is called Stop It. This is kind of a different flavor of Kill a Stupid Rule. One manager I worked with in this culture change program I told you downtown with this financial services firm, he said, I invited my team in and I said, what are the things that we wish we could just stop doing right now? Put them out on the table. And he said by the end of the meeting, which was only about half an hour long, he said we had over a dozen ideas of things that we just wanted to stop right away. They were things we were going to stop internally, things that we would stop doing with other teams, and things that we would stop doing to our customers that would make them say thank you. The last 2 are really fun. Number 5 is about going to extremes. The next time when you're innovating, you hold a brainstorm, I want you to tell people to give you ideas that would get them fired. Tell them that you only want ideas that are unthinkable, outrageous, and totally off the charts, that are embarrassing. They can't believe they would say them. People would be shocked at the board level if they actually said them out loud, but you're going to make them do it. When you make people go to extremes, often I'll tell you, they do not go to extremes. Most people don't come up with ideas, well, some do actually, and that's where it really gets fun, that would get them fired. But what they do is they start to think in really offbeat ways. I had one group say, you know what would be really extreme is if we just got rid of our division. What would really be extreme is if we outsourced everything. What would really be extreme is if we tripled our prices. What would really be extreme is if we merged these 2 groups together and we actually swapped roles. Really fun ideas come out of either bad or extreme ideas that can move you forward. The last one, number 6, I think is just so fun and easy. One group told me, they said, we are consumed by meetings and emails. The best thing that my boss did is he is forcing us now to stop replying to all, or to stop feeling like we have to reply to things. So in the subjects of our emails that we send out that are just FYIs, we have to put NNTR, no need to respond, in the subject line so people know that this is just FYI. He said it has cut our email traffic down by more than 20%. Which I thought was really excellent. No need to respond. Do me a favor here in your questions box, because we're almost at the end. Tell me what little big you would love to do right now if you could. What little big would you love to do right now if you could? We have somebody here that just typed in NNTR. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I responded to that. Going to the extreme. NNTR with an exclamation point 3 times. Going to extremes. Empowerment rules. That was interesting. Another one, going to extremes, and another one, empowerment rules. Outside in. All right, we've got a real diverse group here. Another going to extreme. So there's something for everybody. What about the toolkit? What about little bigs? I think you can see by all the things that I'm presenting here that everybody has a different way of creating something different. But all these things are things that are simple, easy to do, and create change that make people feel more innovative. Now, what if you want to get some more juice, some more innovation tips and tricks? This is just a shameless plug before I start to open up a quick Q&A to everybody. If you want to get on our newsletter, which is not about FutureThink products, it's about just little tips, tricks. There's actually little videos we send out that teach you new techniques like I told you here today. Do me a favor and type your email your email address into the questions box, and we'll make sure that we just put you on the newsletter so you can get these videos or tips going forward. So again, if you want to be able to get more, you can sign up on our website, futurethink.com. But if you would like us to actually put you on the list, we're happy to add it to you so you can get the videos right away. Again, just type it into your questions box. So here's Maddie. Here's one of the other WIGs. Where does this leave us? How do we get in the mindset of potential, and what does this mean for NPCA? The one thing that I think is really great about even just seeing your responses here today is that every group is different. Everyone is eager, participative, and really listening, which I think is great, and eager to come up with new things and actually stretch it to extremes. There's a lot of groups that aren't that way. They're conservative, especially with associations, I will say. They tend to be conservative. They tend to not want to take a lot of risks. They tend to be under a lot of constraints. So I have to tell you, I think your job is very hard. But I also think that your job is very inspiring. A lot of people want to work where you do. They think what you do is very cool. And I think you have to remember that when you go about innovating, that a lot of people look to you for new and different things, so it's part of your job to need to do that. So I hope with everybody here, you can have a couple more minutes with me to ask some questions if you want. I can take a couple more minutes here just to ask and answer some questions. Feel free to stump the expert if you'd like. We prefer to call it that than Q&A. And of course, if there's anything you want to ask me about any of the tools that we just said today, I'm happy to share that with you too. Now, one of the questions that just came in, I'll answer this one quickly here in the last 2 minutes. Okay. Are there any other little bigs that you can share? Any other little bigs? There, one other little big I'll tell you about was an idea party. This was a fun one. The idea party was, too often we call people in to have a brainstorm and come up with ideas. One of the guys actually had a nonprofit downtown. This was a religious nonprofit downtown. He said, what I did instead is I brought in my guitar. I actually opened up a bar at the end of the day in the conference room. It was okay for him to do that, by the way. I had wine and beer, and I said, I didn't want them to actually come up with ideas in the meeting. I said, I'll play music for you and offer you drinks if you actually, for your price of admission, just come in with a ticket that's filled out with an idea. So your price of admission was an idea, and for that idea, you could come in and actually listen to the music and enjoy the bar. So that was actually a cool thing. Here's another one that just came in. One more question. How do we get over the fear of offending our supervisors and colleagues when challenging the status quo? Wow, great question. Excellent question. Getting over the fear. Well, one thing is, when you challenge the status quo, part of that's why we ask those open-ended questions. You start asking the questions of, I love that idea and I'd like to build on it. Using the language is very important. Hey, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. Let me give you a different perspective. Ooh, that's a really interesting perspective. In what other ways might we think about X, Y, Z? Some of those things are just different ways to phrase the question in order to challenge people's ideas in a way that feels like contrast, not conflict. And that's a very interesting thing that you have to get into your culture, by the way, with innovation, is people have to make sure that they understand the difference between contrast and conflict. Nothing moves forward in a culture where there is conflict. Things do move forward in a culture where there is contrast, because there's a good phrase to remember: when everyone is thinking alike, nobody is thinking. So you should actually invite the fact that there's some questioning is a positive thing. By the way, questioning might validate the idea at hand, or it might actually improve on it and get you in that area of potential and improvement. One more question here that I got from somebody that I think is excellent. What is a reasonable timeline for an organization to change to a more innovative culture? Ooh. Okay, I'm a very straightforward person. It doesn't happen overnight. It will not happen overnight. I also think that the way to do it is just to start immediately some of these little bigs, some of these little behaviors, because that gets traction the fastest. Killing a stupid rule actually shows as a leader that you are open to change and you can actually start doing some quick wins. Doing some of these little bigs that actually make people's to-do lists easier, or meetings and emails and the things that they do every day more effective, that starts the culture change rolling, and it can actually get, you can feel a daily pulse change within the first 3 months. To actually transform a culture ultimately does have to come from leadership. It cannot only happen on the bottom or mid-levels. It has to come from leadership participating and actually getting people to believe that these changes will stick. The first 3 months you should start to see little changes. Within 6 to 12 months, I think you can actually transform a good part of a culture, but it will not happen overnight. One last question here that I love. What are some of the best ways to reward innovative behavior? I love that.